on. Oh, crying's ever so useful, isn't it?
If you say so, but there's nothing you could say that would convince me you'd ever use that gun.
Oh, really? Well, I'm looking for my children.
Yeah, I'm gonna hate you. But not for the reasons you might think. Okay, it's been a while since I did the End of Time, and as such my strength is a little replenished, and I'm ready to yet again whine, rant and cry about something that's actually not important at all. This time it's Matt Smith and Stephen Moffat's second Christmas special, The Doctor, the Widow and the Wardrobe. Now their first Christmas special together was A Christmas Carol, and credit where it's due. It's good. It's the best Doctor Who Christmas special, though it's not perfect by any means. It's pretty much a lovely and well-made cake that's been slathered with frosting made from the deepest, brownest shit. Of course, most Christmas specials are like this one, cakes made of solid shit. I hate the Christmas specials, sue me. But this isn't the worst. That's Voyage of the Damned, and The Next Doctor, and this one. Yeah, when I'm involved there's a lot of worsts. Insert joke about my obvious shortcomings here. Anyway, based on his Christmas specials alone, it looks like Stephen Moffat has an obsession with basing stories on pre-existing media that rivals Philip Hinchcliffe. Yeah, he's only done 2, and Hinchcliffe did a fuckload, but I'm told that Hinchcliffe did at least 1 original story. And Moffat's yet to do an original Christmas episode. Okay, we open with sound in space. That's usual for sci-fi, so I won't complain. Until this. The spaceship started to talk at the Earth. I only accept this when Vogons are involved. And the Vogons were patching themselves into radios and shit. This thing is talking, as in using sound waves, at the Earth, at the entire planet. It's bad when you open up with something that was done less stupidly in a fucking comedy. Then, of course, the spaceship explodes. All the evidence says that the Doctor blew it up. Within 30 seconds, the Doctor has killed an entire spaceship. I'm not exactly complaining about that. I just wish that the idiots who were complaining about him killing Solomon and dinosaurs in a spaceship would remember this kind of shit. And before anyone suggests that the spaceship is automated, there are spaceships on board. Who are they going to belong to, the fucking Scudders? So the spaceship computer starts saying, "Intruder alert," as it explodes. I think it managed to mix up "intruder alert" with "we're blowing the fuck up alert," and so the second the Doctor was detected, it told everyone to abandon ship. Which would explain why the ship appears to be empty. So we can see that the Doctor's hanging onto the exploding ship somewhere above the Earth. I'd just like to mention this again, if the 11th Doctor was as cool as the second Doctor, he'd have his own TARDIS calling device and this sort of shit wouldn't happen. What's funny about that clip is right afterwards, the 6th Doctor asks his previous self where he got that, indicating that Classic Who doesn't know which order numbers go in. The Doctor reaches for a spacesuit, which suddenly gets sent flying. Yeah, the oxygen is being blown out, but it's really kind of not. The spaceship just decides it wants to go flying. It wasn't even sent with that explosion because it happened after it moved. Anyway, this all means the Doctor needs to swim after it. Okay, the Doctor can survive in space better than a human, as seen in this very embarrassing looking clip, but I'm fairly sure you can't swim in space. There's no medium to move yourself through. Admittedly, they're not really clear whether the swimming actually helps him catch up with the spacesuit, but it looks enough like it for me to complain. Because he only speeds up and reaches it after he starts swimming. Fucking stupid. Also, I'm pretty sure he should have been hurt by that explosion, and he's very far away from the Earth. So I'm guessing he's going to be in space for a while, like a few hours at least. Oh, I must have guessed wrong. I think she probably should have seen him enter the atmosphere, possibly as a falling star, and he probably would have been going too fast for her to hear before he landed. Just saying. This is Madge, or as I like to call her, stupid woman constructed mainly from sexist ideas. Or Madge for short. Naturally, she asks the diving suit-looking thing in the crater that's making sore sounds if it's alright.
Are you alright? Are you hurt? Did you fall? Where did you fall from?
You live in a world with planes and parachutes. There's a logical but wrong conclusion you could be leaping to right now.
Oh!
I can't see. I'm blind.
Well, I'm not surprised. With those lights where they are, you couldn't see out of that thing even if you were the right way round. Now, to their credit, they try to explain the Doctor's survival by having it be an impact suit, which absorbs the impact and then reconstructs the wearer's body to allow them to survive a massive, well, impact.
Impact suit. Still repairing me.
But try or not, it's a fail. Let's look at this in full. The suit reconstructs his body. Okay, fine. I'll accept that for the laws, but why didn't the shock set off a regeneration? Less drastic things like falling off an exercise bike have set them off before. Also, why did you show us the back of his head in the suit? Because it's clearly just fine. The only part we see of him is just fine. That doesn't help the suspension of disbelief. And why would you have a suit that's only function is to take a long, painful time rebuilding someone after they fall from a spaceship? Having it as a secondary feature in a regular spacesuit I can see, but he called it an impact suit. That kind of suggests that's the purpose. It'd be the sort of thing used by terrible intergalactic commandos on midnight raids that don't go at all well. And oh yes, just so I can mention this again later on, Madge crashed the car when she was driving the Doctor to find the TARDIS.
Did we just bump into something?
No.
We seem to bump into quite a lot of things.
Well, a lot of things get in the way. It's hardly my fault.
There's an admittedly amusing moment where Madge unlocks the TARDIS with a hairpin that I was prepared to complain about because the TARDIS lock isn't a regular door lock, it just looks like one. But they then reveal that it's not the TARDIS but a regular police box. Which makes me wonder why it looks like there might be a fire inside. And why it doesn't look like an actual 1940s police box. Useful bit of information, police boxes rarely if ever looked like the TARDIS. And lastly, they again drive off together to find the TARDIS, meaning that she probably will end up unlocking it, thus making my original complaint valid, so victory is mine. Though thankfully it all happens off screen. And when she returns home, we get the stupidest line from someone we're supposed to like that I can think of right now.
Not the war again. People keep reading about the war, then it will actually happen.
And then a few years in the future, we have pilots, including Madge's husband. Top ho, what, tootle pipple, chop it especially, etc.
Dad, Anderson's in a bad way. Where are we?
I don't know. Somewhere over the channel.
What do I tell Anderson?
Tell him we're going home for Christmas.
Yeah.
David, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you there. I've got another doomed airman on a different line.
Maybe stop off for a pipe on the way home. Drink it on the village green.
Eric, Helen here again. How are you getting on there?
Fine, thanks, Helen. I want to win the boat race this year. Red dress. A mother making stones in the kitchen. A father in the garden tending his roses. Was it really only last summer?
Sorry, my love.
Oh, no wonder it looks like a fucking melodrama. It's her imagination. Yep, her husband's dead, lost over the channel.
Count of three then. Make a wish. 1, 2, 3.
Are we to assume that the Doctor heard that? Because I'm calling bullshit. Yeah, he told Madge to make a wish, but it's a fucking turn of phrase. Anyway, because I refuse to believe that the Doctor heard that wish, I have no fucking clue as to why he suddenly decided to become the caretaker in the house that they're staying at this Christmas.
Who are you?
I'm the caretaker.
But you're not Mr. Cardew.
I agree. Smaller sitting room, just chairs, a bit pointless without a television. So, I made some repairs.
This is easily the most childish the Doctor's been in the new series, and while the childish elements of his character have always been there, this is just too much. There's times in this episode when I expect him to break into a full-on drop-dead Fred.
I know.
No, you really don't. You really, really don't.
And these are taps. Hot, cold, lemonade.
Lemonade taps have nothing on Iron Brew taps. Available only in Scotland.
Lily and Cyril's room, I'm going to be honest, masterpiece. The ultimate bedroom. A sciencey whitey workbench, a jungle, a maze, a window disguised as a mirror disguised as a window, selection of torches for midnight feasts and secret reading, Zen garden, mysterious cupboard, zone of tranquility, rubber ball, dream tank, exact model of the rest of the house, not quite to scale, apologies, dolls with comical expressions, the Magna Carta, a football, Cluedo, a yellow ball.
Where are the beds?
Well, I couldn't fit everything in. There had to be sacrifices. Anyway, who needs beds when you've got hammers?
If you were any other character, I'd swear you'd practice raping small children on those hammocks.
God's sake!
This hammock has developed a fault.
Someone badly needs to practice their hammock raping. Madge gets pissed off, sends the kids downstairs, and it's time for drama type stuff of drama.
Their father's dead.
I'm sorry.
Lily and Cyril's father. My husband is dead, and they don't know yet, because if I tell them now, then Christmas will always be what took their father away from them, and no one should have to live like that.
Yes, I know. Hating Christmas, connecting Christmas with deep personal pain could warp them. It could cause such suffering that eats at their soul until they can't really function in society. They'd be forced to do internet reviews where they pretend to be an omnicidal maniac and obsessively watch episodes of a TV show made for kids and critique each and every episode to try and fill the dark hole where a heart used to be. Especially Christmas episodes like that one with the fucking space Titanic, because they need to be hurt back as a form of revenge, because that time of the year brought them nothing but pain and tears, while their friends were filled with joy and fun each and every December. Lady, you need to tell them. 9 a.m. Christmas Day. You have no idea what they're missing. Give it a few decades, they could go to MagFest.
Because what's the point in them being happy now if they're going to be sad later? The answer is, of course, because they are going to be sad later.
Honestly, I can understand why the Doctor's doing what he's doing, as annoying as I find it, though I'm more inclined to the mother's way of thinking. Going from happy to hurt feels a lot worse than going from average to hurt. Anyway, hey episode, how the fuck does the Doctor know any of this? Why did he come? Because fuck the wish idea. If he looked into their lives and wanted to make them better, they have a dad who's missing and suspected dead. Why not go save him? You have a flying machine that travels in time. The kids have found the Christmas tree and the comically large presents in the living room, which they somehow managed to miss a couple of scenes earlier. And about the kids, the Doctor is a personality vacuum that doesn't believe that astronomy or agriculture are real words, and the son is clearly the youngest child of Harry Potter and Ron Weasley, the one who gets beaten up regularly for looking like a nerd. And for some reason he's drawn to random glowing Gigantor presents. Also, it sounds like it's speaking Elvish. That night, both of the kids go wandering around because the story's not gonna fucking happen by itself.
Why have you got a phone box in your room?
It's not a phone box, it's my wardrobe. I've just painted it to look like a phone box.
Why is someone from the 1940s calling it a phone box? It's clearly a police box, not a phone box. Was the term phone box even used in the 40s in the UK? Sometimes I wish I did research. And yes, he called it his wardrobe, just so they have a wardrobe for the title. The present, which Harry Weasley is checking out, is a portal to a planet on the other side of the galaxy and in the far future. It's what the classic show called a time corridor, and I seem to recall they were pretty hard to set up. How the fuck did he do it inside a cardboard box? And Doctor, if you're going to give people the gift of time corridors, must you choose one that fucking glows? Even though there's nothing on the other side of the portal that actually glows like that. Because all you're doing is encouraging the kids to go investigate it and get lost, which is what happens to the kids. Doctor, you're an idiot, and even if you are blind, which you're not, the present is still audibly talking to people. It's pretty much saying, come investigate me, come through my portal. Roar. Also, why is the time corridor on before the morning? Because, say it with me, the Doctor's a fucking idiot. Lastly, for now, the Doctor calls his TARDIS his wardrobe. The wardrobe in The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe was what transported the children to the adventure. Why didn't you just have the Doctor take them to the location and have bad things happen on the other side, rather than have him act like a complete moron in order to get them there? Yeah, he's being stupid and reckless in my suggestion, but it's nothing compared to how stupid and reckless he's being in the actual episode. And the rip-off of the overrated anthropomorphic Bible fanfiction will be more than just the fucking title and the presence of snow in a forest. Oh, and one more thing. When Weasley or Potter goes through the time corridor, what the fuck is the cardboard box sitting on? It's just floating there in the air. Maybe the portal's two-dimensional and we're seeing into the living room, but a fucking pan around would have made that clear, and they didn't do that, so it looks like someone invented anti-gravity cardboard. On the other side, a tree spontaneously generates a Christmas tree ornament. The Doctor later claims that he wanted to show the kids the forest because of the naturally occurring ornaments, which sounds okay on the surface, but why aren't they all over the trees already if they're that usual? And won't this forest get really fucking boring eventually? And where did the tree get the everything needed to create that thing in seconds? The last question just keeps growing and growing and growing. Now, this boy went through a dimensional portal in a cardboard box and wandered into a mysterious forest. Saw a bauble grow in seconds, crack, and something come out of it. He then follows it alone into the deeper part of the forest while it continues to grow, while it's snowy and he's in pajamas. This is accidentally suicidal in so many ways that I think the rest of the cast should just smoke some cigars and be happy that his death raised the average IQ of the entire species by 4.
What is that?
With me! Quickly! Come on! In you can! Oh, a bit cold.
So, the doctor's understandably pissed off that one of the kids has gone into danger, so he naturally drags another child into danger to find him. Yeah, it's a lesser danger, but it's still danger. The doctor being a reckless idiot seems to be a theme this episode. It's like he ate nothing but sugar and ran headfirst into a wall for 5 hours.
These are Cyril's footprints. And these are the ones he was following. Notice anything?
Oh, the other footprints are getting bigger.
Yes? Whatever your brother's following, it's growing.
Brace yourself. Your brother may actually be a bigger idiot than me. Within moments, she manages to set off another bauble tree thing by rubbing against its branches. Okay, fair enough. But how did the boy do it? Stare too hard?
Do you know the difference between wind and trees talking to each other?
If I remember my racist, sexist 1950s British children's author Enid Blyton correctly, her book The Faraway Tree said something to the effect of, if you can hear the wind but not feel it, that's the trees talking.
No wind.
And with that I conclude that if you've read one 1950s British children's fantasy novel written by a disagreeable twat, then you've read them all. Also, in the episode it doesn't sound anything like the wind. It sounds like people whispering in Elvish. So the trees are pissed off. You're just lucky they're not chucking apples at you. Doctor, you went to the bother of finding out all about this family and their lives somehow, and you didn't bother checking out the forest was really fucking angry on the date you planned to take them there? Again, fucking stupid. And hey Doctor, what exactly were you going to tell the kids to ensure they shut up about this little adventure? I know sometimes kids get involved in your adventures, but recently one nearly ended up in a mental institution, and I don't think that boy will ever be able to pull off Amy's miniskirts. You really shouldn't be encouraging kids to take part. And ooh, symbolism. A massive fucking cock tower. I'm having flashbacks to Stonewall Riot for some reason. The boy's weirdly attracted to phallic buildings and just has to go inside. Child deserves to die 57 times over.
Why would you bring us to this place?
But it was supposed to be a treat. This is one of the safest planets I know. There's never anything dangerous here.
Everywhere is dangerous sometime. For a fourth dimensional being, you're being pretty damn two-dimensional this episode, and both of those dimensions being stupid. So Madge came through the portal too, because everyone's drawn to the fucking portal like a dickhead to YouTube commentary. Luckily she meets up with some huge walking machine thing containing Master Chief if he was 3 comedy characters. Now, I'm fine with the actors here, in particular Bill Bailey, and it's nice they gave Arabella Weir a job. She's an interesting part of Doctor Who history because she's one of the few women to play the part of the Doctor. She played the Doctor in an Unbound audio play called Exile, which wasn't very good. And she even managed to get her housemate at the time a small role in the play and a couple of others. He was a massive Doctor Who fan and was delighted to become a small part of Doctor Who history. He was called David Tennant. Yes, she was responsible for David Tennant's first job in Doctor Who, but I don't hold it against her. Anyway, these 3 are shit. They're sort of the fine line between antagonistic authority figures and a comedy sketch. And when people's only point in a story is to be funny, they're usually crap. And I'll come back to them later. Anyway, the Doctor and the sister find the cock tower and discover a terrible secret.
Look at the floor. This is what Cyril was following, the growing thing. Hatched from a bauble on a tree, grew to this size in less than an hour, I'd say. Whoosh! Impressive.
Yes, very. Any idea how it did it? With that sort of speed, you should have been able to hear it growing. And it can't be a tree in the way we understand trees, because it's got no roots, and there's no sunlight out there, and if there is and I'm not seeing it, it's got no leaves. I think we're supposed to assume it feeds on plot holes. And why the fuck did it become a dryad? 2 legs are not the most efficient way to travel.
This building, it isn't a building. It's a group of trees grown in the shape of a building, disguised as a building.
Why the fuck would you disguise yourself as something that's not common on the planet, when you are yourself something that's really fucking common on the planet? That's like a gay person trying to disguise themselves in San Francisco by pretending to be Amish. Anyway, the Doctor works out that this building has been grown to attract people. In the words of Admiral Akbar,
It's a trap!
yes, that.
The people trap question is, why does a forest need people?
Yes, why? I hope the reason makes a tiny amount of sense. It'd be a real change of pace.
Mom, Please stop crying. I can't interrogate you while you're crying. This is a military engagement. There's no crying in military engagements.
I like Bill Bailey. I like him a lot, but he should have been shot before being allowed to say that line.
I have mother issues, sir. It's all on file. It won't affect the performance of my duties.
Collectively, these three characters are so fucking terrible that when they mention they're from Andrewsani Major, it leaves me feeling that this episode has somehow managed to pollute the caves of Andrewsani, which was made in the early 80s. They're here to harvest the trees for reasons of evil, evil industry. Because it's the future, they're going to do it by melting them down with planet-wide acid rain. Yes, melting and harvesting are now the same fucking thing. They couldn't just be space loggers, because even the Doctor's idiot twin who replaced him this episode would probably have noticed that. Doctor, here's an idea. When you plan on bringing people to a planet, check the day after you're going to be there to see if the planet's still there. Anyway, Madge captures them because they disarm themselves, and she has a 1940s pistol.
And there's a war on.
1. I'd hope that future military idiots from the future in armour from the future would be able to survive a bullet from what looks like a service revolver. And 2. Yes, there was a war on, and while the war was on, the Home Guard, the official volunteer defence force of the country, had to train with brooms or axes from museums and crap because there was a shortage of guns. The actual army had lost most of their equipment at Dunkirk. I don't know if you legally had to hand in privately owned guns to the Home Guard or the army or not, but that doesn't really matter because I'm fairly sure that owning a gun like that for self-defence has been illegal in the UK since 1937. And yes, I probably should have mentioned this in the End of Time review. This woman is dedicated to protecting her children, but she's also arrogant and paranoid because she thinks she could make better use of the gun than someone who's received actual training. Bad training, I admit, in the case of the Home Guard. They were a bit of a joke, but that's partly because they didn't have the correct equipment. Up at the top of the cock tower, this wooden woman's trying to put this flaming ring of pain on this small boy's red head. I'd be lying if I didn't think this was supposed to be symbolic of someone's deepest, darkest issues.
Oh, of course, it's wood. It's rubbish of wood.
Of course. The insane weakness they wrote into the sonic screwdriver to counteract the bad writing that made it a fucking magic wand in the first place. They intended to use it as a keep the stories going at a good pace no matter what device, but they instead turned it into an all-purpose keep the story going device no matter how fucking little sense it makes device. And when they realised what they'd done, deadlock seals started turning up and it suddenly developed problems with wood. So Madge has the two Master Chiefs tied up and lets the Mistress Chief stand around as they explain more fully what's going on. Acid, melting, death, and you know, if that little ginger kid hadn't run off into the forest, this would have been A, much worse, and B, much more entertaining, as the kids would have climbed headfirst into the middle of a sea of acid and mulch. Or maybe the fumes would have got through the portal and melted the family's lungs. All because the Doctor was a fucking idiot this episode, so minor disaster was averted by a kid being a prick. Good for him. Anyway, as you may or may not have guessed, depending on how insane you are because this doesn't make any fucking sense, the trees have done all this to try and escape. Quite why they didn't just grow massive walking figures that could beat the fuck out of the walking machine and maybe chuck pieces of it at the satellites that are going to fire the acid, I have no fucking idea. That is really no more silly than growing a wooden person who looks like a rejected TNA heel from a Christmas bauble in less than an hour. And how do they know about the upcoming melting? I assume they're fucking magic, because later you will see, they are.
So what are you then? Not a king? A queen? The queen bee of the forest.
And trees have sexes now. Just so we all know this fact, the trees are gathering up all their souls to collect inside the mind of a suitable host to escape the destruction of the forest. And suddenly my giant machine-destroying Godzilla tree idea is looking less stupid in comparison, isn't it? Back at the walking machine, Madge mentions that she once saw the cockpit of an airplane.
Well, it looks a little like a plane. My husband flies a plane. He took me up once.
It takes years of training.
And the crew receive the message that the acid rain will begin to fall in 5 minutes. So they're all going to be automatically beamed out. The company is leaving their walking machine there to melt. Someone high up in that company owns shares in the company that makes those things. And they know there are people down there, but the rain is automatic and there's no way to stop it. This is the worst planned operation I've seen in hours. So Madge, whose driving experience is crashing a car and once being in the cockpit of a 1940s plane, is naturally able to drive a walking machine from several thousand years in the future that she'd just been told needed years of practice to operate. Somehow I doubt this is likely. This is like Ben-Hur being able to work out how to drive a car, but even worse because at least a car has fucking wheels. Here's a small boy being possessed by a tree with a randomly human gender identity.
Your coming was foretold.
Oh my god, what is that? Why did he sound like that?
Oh, hello. Are we lip-syncing now?
We had faith. Your coming was foretold.
There's no such thing as foretelling. Trust a time traveller.
Quick, someone go back in time and tell the 10th Doctor that during the farewell parade of death. all of 2 seasons ago. Maybe he wouldn't cry quite as much. Okay, I agree with what the Doctor's saying here, but continuity, what the fuck is that? The trees are a bit pissy because the boy is weak, and therefore not able to carry the souls of the forest in his mind. And so the Doctor decides to take his place.
You are also weak.
I'm really not. Let's save a forest, eh, Cyril?
You are not the one. You are weak.
I'm really not.
How come it wasn't hurting the boy, who was also weak? Anyway, he works out that strong and weak means female and male. Women can handle holding the souls of the forest because they can get pregnant and men can't. Yes, this is clearly very insulting to men. But it's not just insulting to men, it's accidentally reducing women to their capacity for motherhood. Women are awesome because they can have children, which shafts women who don't want to or can't have kids, and reduces everyone to biology. Fuck no. You cannot have a women are awesome message while relying on biology to make it. It's farcical. There are a few things as annoyingly sexist as a clumsy, ridiculous, accidentally sexist as fuck anti-sexist message. I'm sure there's people who have already started writing rebuttals about this, but hear me out. Madge is the only one who's able to hold the forest in her head because she's mum. Because she's a mother. We are supposed to cheer her pulling a gun on unarmed people because she's a pissed off mother. She has 2 main things in this episode. 1 is to be a mother, and be defined by that. And 2, crashing things. She crashed the car at the start of the episode, and now after suddenly learning how to drive a futuristic walking machine in minutes when it usually takes years, she fucking crashes it so they can't use it to escape.
It's okay. She's fine. Don't worry. Nice one, Madge. You complete write-off.
Women being bad drivers is a fucking stupid stereotype and never seems to go away, and this character is half constructed from that stereotype. They easily could have had her not crash the car at the start of the episode so it wasn't a character thing, or just had the walker too melted to work. But no, she needed to crash both. Do you want to know how to do a women are awesome story? First up, don't construct a female character from positive and negative stereotypes about women. I'm serious, this is like having a character from Korea in an episode and giving him a very small penis. But it's okay because he's very good at math. And do you know what the last nail in the coffin for this is? Women aren't the only humans who can get pregnant. Pregnancy has never been an exclusively woman thing, and in recent years this has got more and more publicised. And to anyone who wants to argue that if you can get pregnant you are by definition a woman, fuck you. So, rant over, and Madge has made it to the dome where she's taken the souls of the forest into her head, and she flies the wooden dome into the time vortex, because a dome made of wood with no means of propulsion is the ideal time machine. And you know the walking machine that was beginning to melt within minutes of the acid rain starting? Apparently the dome is more impervious than that. And the dome's apparently airtight, even though there should be a massive hole where the staircase was. Why is that? Well, because the story would have been much darker if everyone had died before the dome made it to Earth.
The time vortex, your mother is flying authority! Through the time vortex, be a little impressed!
You know, you haven't actually told them what a time vortex is, and no, I won't be impressed. I'm far too busy trying to repress this memory. The Doctor has Madge concentrate on thoughts of her husband and home, because that's apparently how space-time travel works.
How did you meet? You and Reg, tell me how you met.
He followed me home. I worked in the dairy. He used to follow me home. But Father, he looks so young. He said he'd keep on following me till I married him. Didn't like to make a scene.
Family-friendly, romantic Christmas stalking. It's almost like one of the Adam Adamant writers was still working. We get to see shots of the dad and his crew again and get reminded that one of his men is injured and maybe dying. Nice of them to remind us about that because he never comes up again. But trivia time. Madge's husband is played by Alexander Armstrong, who did the voice of the alien supercomputer Mr. Smith on the Sarah Jane Adventures. Easily the best Doctor Who spin-off show ever made. And yes, you can quote me on that. The dad's lost plane follows them because the dome is now inexplicably glowing. And you know what is a light and travels in time and space? The fucking TARDIS! The thing the Doctor called his wardrobe, which was the thing that took everyone on the adventure in the book that the episode was inspired by. This story would have been made much less mind-numbingly stupid if it was more like the book where Jesus was literally a lion. They land, well, they crash, again, and we find that the trees have suddenly evolved the ability to fly off without a woman's head to live inside.
The souls of the trees are out among the stars, and they're shining, very happy.
Pretty damn convenient and pretty damn stupid, and it could have been avoided if they just used the TARDIS. The Doctor could have had a device on board that could contain them, and then he could take them to a suitable planet. And since we're now in the past, he could have taken them to the same planet and set up the forest in the first place. What's next? Oh yeah, drama, because the dad's arrived. Safe and sound, and the dying guy's probably dead, but no one cares. And he really must be a good pilot, because he managed to not only not crash, but not crash while landing on grass, when from his point of view the sun suddenly and randomly instantly came up in his face. I have a slight question, though. The only logical reason for the Doctor to come was if he investigated the life of the woman who helped him and discovered a time when he could maybe do the most good. The time her husband had vanished. I'm guessing he was planning on saving the dad, but found his disappearance was a fixed point in time for some reason. Because I can't think of why the Doctor didn't just save the dad himself as a gift for the woman and her family. So if he was a fixed point in time, how did he get saved? If he wasn't a fixed point in time, why didn't the Doctor just go back and save him himself? The only logical explanation for this is that the Doctor found out that Madge's husband mysteriously returned after several weeks, and he figured he probably had something to do with it, and so went along with the predestination paradox. It's a pity he didn't keep reading about the dad, because a plane that vanished in World War II for several weeks only to mysteriously appear in the middle of England? They don't have much of an explanation for what happened, and what they do have won't be believed by anyone. I smell an investigation and either a mental hospital or an execution as a probable German spy in the dad's future. Still, at least they had one more Christmas together. Aww, they're going to be so adorable, crying their stupid little family tears after he meets the nice Mr. Albert Pierpoint. So, the last few minutes of this episode of the Doctor going to see his companions Amy and Rory. I haven't really talked about either of them much yet, so I will. It's nice to have a romantic couple in the TARDIS. It's the first time since Ian and Barbara back in the 1960s. Amy is my favourite New Who companion, though she definitely suffers from female character ridden by Stephen Moffat syndrome, where character is replaced by being witty, sassy and capable whether it makes sense or not. But still, she takes no shit, and her relationship with the Doctor isn't one of mindless adulation. She reminds me a little bit of Perry, actually, who I'd like to remind you I'm a fan of. Rory is a more interesting and multi-layered character than Amy, but that's typical of Moffat, because he's actually capable of writing men as characters, not a loose collection of things that I'm guessing he finds sexy. Yeah, character is not one of Moffat's strong points, it's plot. And this plot sucks. I'm pretty sure he was writing a fuckload of things while working on this, the next season, Sherlock, and probably one or two other things. I think at least some of the episode's many problems could have been ironed out if there was another draft or two. Literally everyone in this episode is an idiot. They deliberately go for the harder and stupider story choices than the obvious ones that actually make sense, and the schmaltz has turned up to 111. It's like watching a Russell T Davies episode, but without the annoying idiots actually being characters. Avoid, 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 avoid.